What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Success After Trauma, where we interview people that have had trauma in their life. And if we're being honest with ourselves, all of us have experienced trauma at some level or another, but what have we done with it? And we're interviewing people that are all different levels of success. Some are just starting out, some are way up the hill. And no matter where you're at on your journey, someone is one chapter behind you and they need exactly what you have right now. If you want to share your story, please connect with me. I want to share it on this platform so your story can change someone's life. Today, we have a friend of mine, a veteran, Kevin Ducey, on with us. Kevin served 5 years in the Army, and now he works in the service industry, mainly helping mortgage lenders. I'm going to let Kevin talk a little bit about himself. Kevin, will you share with us maybe a fun fact about yourself, a little about what your hobbies are, and then how do you provide service to the community?
Oh, right on. I appreciate that, Greg. It's good to see you again, bud. So, fun fact about myself, little oddity. I have 9 siblings. Now that's counting steps and quasi halves and all kinds of interesting things there, but a very big family. My dad had 100 first cousins, so uh, it's just
Wow.
that's the one thing I go to because people are like, how in the heck do you keep them straight? And I'm like, I don't know if I do really. Um, and then you just ask, what do I do, or how do I serve the community? Is that right? Like,
Well, yeah, and let me ask you this real quick. So is
okay.
family, are you guys like tight knit? Is family is that big for you guys?
I would say yes, but it's all relative, right? So my wife
Good point.
has a very tight unit in family, and I wouldn't say we're nearly as tight as they are, but we make sure we connect a couple times a year and get as many people together as possible. And my mom and dad have been divorced since I was 2 years old, and they'll be at each other's houses when we get together. So that's actually pretty cool. It's given a a little bit of modeling and how to live life, forgive others, that kind of thing. So
That's right. And do you and your wife have kids?
we do. We have two little beautiful daughters, Claire and Lane. Claire's 8 and Lane is 5. And it is so funny that Claire is a spitting image in every way possible of her mother, and Lane is her dad through and through. So that's
Wow.
my little mini me, female version of a mini me, and it's funny how they interact and they get along really well. So that's a good thing.
I have a 7-year-old son and daughter just turned 12, and 8 is, man, you're still in that sweet phase. 12 is sweet, but they want to know why for everything 2 or 3 levels deep. Has your daughter started the why phase yet at all, or?
Not necessarily the why. She just doesn't see. She doesn't think that she should do what we say. That she's very independent. She's very intelligent, and
That's huge.
she's already manipulative. It's kind of funny, but she's a great kid. She really is. And she loves to read, and she's great with her sister. But she can be challenging sometimes. And it's funny because her sister's so easy, go with the flow, kind of like, hey, whatever. So very different kids.
What a gift it is, knowing that your daughter's independent. I think that's very a powerful gift being a father myself. And
Wonderful.
so tell us a little bit about how do you serve the community?
Okay.
What's a day in the life of Kevin?
Okay, so there's a couple different ways, and I'm gonna start first with the priority in my life is that my wife and I are very active in our church, um, and I'm lucky enough that we found a church that is incredibly proactive in the community. So, for instance, just a couple weeks ago, some friends of ours we bagged up some dog food and took it down to the church under the bridge services for the homeless. So every Sunday at 3 o'clock, certain part of town, there's a service for the homeless folks. They feed them, and people are like, dog food. What are you bringing dog food for? And honestly, that was my initial reaction. I mean, it's one of the things that breaks my heart is when I see homeless people with a dog. I'm like, man, can we do something for the dog? But I didn't realize what the dog does for these folks is they're dealing with a lot of psychological issues. And the dog is really, I mean, that dog is really a comfort source for them. I actually talked to one gentleman, he has seizures. And so the dog will help, and the dog helps keep him safe. And I mean, it was a pit, it's a beautiful dog, but he's like, hey, listen, you can't get too close. This dog really does protect me. And that kind of gave me some good grounding of understanding that. And then we went around and fed some folks who didn't come to the service. So that's pretty powerful. We take in some kids through an organization called Safe Families. And our church is always about the proactive, get out there and make a difference in the community. And I hate to talk about it because it sounds like I'm bragging on myself, but it's really just taking the opportunity that's presented in front of you from the church. And that's how I stay close to God and my wife and I, it's very important. It's also important that we took our daughters when we did that, and they were out there with us for the service under the bridge. Now, when we were handing out meals, they stayed in the car for protection reasons, because we don't quite, there's not quite the same safety valve that you have at the church service. But yeah, we do that. And then secondly,
Kevin,
go ahead.
I'm so sorry, dude. I just, highlight and that was going through my mind. That's crazy to think about. Not like homeless, you don't have a roof over your head, you don't have food to feed yourself, and you're willing to take on and look after another mouth for the psychological benefit. Think about like just man, like what these people are truly going through, way past having a roof over their head and food in their belly. What's the battle they're fighting every day in their head? And that just really made me think about that as you brought that up, and it's just really deep.
And brother, I'll try not to get too emotional about it, but I mean, how many of them are dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, and that's why they're there, because of stuff that they did in the military. You and I both being veterans, that hits home a little bit. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a challenge. But I'll say, so and in my day in day out life, what I do for a living is I provide loan officers with the opportunity to own their own insurance agency. The really interesting fact and the understanding of, and a lot of people who listen to this understand it, some won't. And you know this is better than anybody else in that real estate and mortgage world. You go and you close a deal, and you take your commission check, and then it's, so what? Go get the next, because there's no residual, there's no return, there's no retirement, there's no wealth generating asset unless you own your own firm. And so there's the aspect of we provide them with the opportunity to own their own insurance agency, create that wealth generating asset, and provide some passive income down the line, and they don't really have to work in it. And this podcast is Success After Trauma, and I was lucky enough to go through Rene Rodriguez's course Amplify, and he talks about between 9 and 13 are the transformative years of your life, and you're either working through those years of your life trying to help or heal that past. And I came to the realization that what I'm doing is I'm helping others. And there was a foundation in my life that I had during that time, which was my neighborhood and my friends and my family and the things that as we were going on. And there were some tough times there, and we'll get into that. But I had people who helped me. And so now I realize that I wouldn't be where I'm at without them, is that my desire is to help as many people as I can. And I truly believe in what we do, not only from a work standpoint, but also from a family standpoint, to try and help others. So.
I believe that, man. Ever since I've known you, anything that I have had the privilege of witnessing you do, I've watched you do it with your all and serve with your whole heart. Let's talk a little bit about, it didn't always look like this. I want to, if you're comfortable, if you would take us back a little bit, tell us about some of the trauma that you experienced, and was your trauma in childhood, adolescent, adult?
Yeah, it would be childhood to adolescence. If you want to call it that, right? It's funny. I watched AJ's Alex Jimenez video with you, and he was talking about filling up the water buckets from the sprinklers. I bet you if you crawled inside his mind and you asked him about what he was going through there, was it hard? No, it was just life. It's just what you did. And I think there's a level of looking back on this, man, I would never want this for my kids. And I experienced stuff my friends didn't experience, but it was just my life, and I had to learn how to cope with it. And so I wouldn't say even cope, utilize it, maximize it.
That's it, man.
I was 10 years old. It was a beautiful fall day in Illinois, and I think it was early October. I could be wrong on the date. This doesn't really matter. I know it's about 10 years old. And my dad and my stepmom picked me up. So my dad and my mom split when I was really young, but raised primarily in my father's house with my stepmom. Physically, verbally abusive woman, and you're a kid. You understand when a parent puts their hands on you as a kid, when you get a spanking, you feel whether this is, I'm trying to correct your behavior, or I really don't like you. There's a difference. And any kid who's been physically abused and spanked by a loved parent knows the difference. It is just carried out with such difference. And hers was abuse, right? I mean, my dad spanked me. My dad punished me physically at times. I wouldn't say he punched me in the face or anything like that, but and I love my dad. He's awesome, but there was a difference. It was a clear delineation between someone was trying to correct my behavior and someone was taking out their anger out on me. But anyway, they both picked me up, me and my stepsister, and something's off, right? First of all, they don't pick us up. We take the MTD school bus, the local transit bus back from our school home, because we went to a private school, and they didn't come to our neighborhood. There weren't many kids in our neighborhood going to private school. My dad did sacrifice for us for that, and I appreciate it. And we come to find out, like, my dad lost his job, and at first you're like, okay, so he lost his job, so what? Well, actually, he lost his job because he embezzled money, about $6,000. I think it's irrelevant. I personally don't care to know the details of what or why. But the hard part there is that he had a fairly prominent position at with the University of Illinois campus parking department. So this is a person who embezzled money from a high profile position. And I'm town of 100,000 people surrounding this university. Everything was about the University of Illinois there. And so it was on TV. So I got to see my dad come out in cuffs on the Channel 3 News that night. And man, that was devastating. There's my hero, my rock, getting arrested on TV. And the things that happened from that, first of all, it's devastating to know that you don't really think of a kid like what you're going to do about money all that much. I mean, it's starting to creep into your head probably about 10 years old, about the things you have and the things your friends have comparatively. And we're definitely one of the poorer kids at our school, but we still fit in with all our neighborhood kids, so that's fine. But then I had to deal with the aspect of like getting teased and made fun of by people I thought were my friends about what my dad went through. I remember he they had to sell his car. He started working like manual labor jobs. We had this brown beater. I don't even remember what kind of car it was. It had a hole in the floor though. Like we drive around in it, and there was like it rusted out all the way through the floor. You could look down and see this.
You guys had that was for if you chewed tobacco, just
yeah, just right through there. No spittoon needed. Just go right through the floorboard, right? And but to my dad's credit, like he never wallowed, he never moped. I mean, he took his licks, and he got right back up and started working. But the change in the dynamic in the house is that my stepmom then was the alpha, right? She was the breadwinner. And so that was a little bit of a struggle there. And that ended up leading into some other things that I dealt with, and that my brother ended up going to prison a couple of years later. So he's 11 years older than me. So I'm 12 years old. My brother goes to prison at 23, 24. I think he went in when he was 24, but he got arrested when he was 23. So I remember clearly it all went down when I was like playing Little League All-Stars, because I missed the Little League All-Star game. For all this like family trauma and stuff that went down. And I'll tell you like that. So the two biggest male influences in my life, my older brother and my dad, are now both convicted felons. And having to go visit my brother in prison. If anybody's ever seen the movie Blues Brothers, so it starts like they're at the Joliet penitentiary there in Illinois, and that's where at one point in time, if you served a sentence in Illinois in prison, it was like where they sent you first, right? And so everybody held there, and then they got distributed out to whatever penitentiary they were going to. And so that means they sent all the prisoners there. That means guys who are going on death, who've been sentenced to death row, guys who are going on life, and they got old school gargoyles on this jail. It was literally the scariest shit I've ever been through in my life. I'm 13 years old, and there were guys in green and gold, and those were death row inmates. And man, it was just, and so having to go through that at 12, 13 years old, and then once again getting made fun of at school, and how do you handle that? You can only get in so many fights as a young kid before things get really bad for you.
If you don't mind me asking, so at school, were people making fun of your family situation?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So I was lucky enough so I've been blessed, right? I love Malcolm Gladwell's book Outliers. I love David and Goliath. There's certain things that happen to you in your life where you have to like say, hey, at least I was blessed in this regard. I was blessed. I was always big, right? I was 6'3" at 13. So I was 6'3", 200 pounds at 13.
So they had to get a few kids to pick on you then, huh?
Yeah, or the older kids. Once I got into high school, that's where it came from. And it didn't really happen at the private school. I'd won enough of those little small skirmishes with people that they're like, I'm probably not going to mess with them, but you still get teased, and there's certain times you can't react. And what I think this all taught me, I mean, there's so many lessons I learned through this, and so many things that I was blessed with. So first of all, my godfather, Steve Beckett, I love him to death. I've actually been thinking about this a lot. I need to talk to him about this, about the things that he did for me. He put his arm around me during these years. He was a prominent attorney in town, so he would take me to Illinois basketball games. I remember I got to be there when the Illinois basketball player Deion Thomas set the school scoring record, and they threw a party for him. I got to go to that. He made sure that, he coached our basketball team. He just looked out for me in ways that I didn't realize at the time. That now I look back, I'm so thankful because he didn't have to do that. I also learned, like, who am I to judge anyone? Like, I mean, you could think about I felt bad that I judged the homeless guy for having the dog. You can look back, like, I've visited my brother in prison. The two males that hold the closest lineage to me are convicted felons. Who the hell am I to judge anybody? Yeah. Like, I look at everybody's got their story, and the one thing that I had to realize through time, and it took a little bit longer than probably I would have liked to get there, is that that's their story. That's what they did.
Wow.
And they own that. That's not mine. It's a part of my story because it affected me in a little bit of how I live, but that's not me. I didn't do those things. That is not who I am. That is part of my story. And I would tell you, man, it probably took till my 30s to really fully understand that. I was lucky enough that I had some success in my career, some other outlier stuff, and we can get into that. But just when you're looking at what the childhood trauma, and I think that's the 9 to 13, that really is those transformative years. And you look at the things that you're going through, I'd ask people, if you're struggling with that and struggling with own belief and self-worth, was it you, or was it people around you that created some harsh circumstances that you had to trudge through? And by the way, you getting through that made you stronger, made you a better human being, made you more resilient. I did know this coming out of that. I'm like, I used to have this mindset. There's nothing I can't take. But I'll be okay. I'll weather, because I went through that. I realized also that's a fallacy. That's bullshit unto itself. As a father of 2 kids, there's things in my life I really wonder whether or not I could take. But it did help me be somewhat successful in my career. But now letting that all go, I used to cry every time I would tell this story. And the one thing I've realized is that if you share these stories with people, first of all, they can bond with you as a human being. Second of all, you diffuse the power, right? There's no power. Right. There's no power in that story. It doesn't hold anything over me. Right. It's like the Eminem thing in 8 Mile at the end. He's like, so I'm white, I'm broke, you slept with my girl. What? Like, what are you gonna? That's right. What shit are you gonna talk on me now? I'm right here. What now? I've put it all on the table. You can't come. Your knives can only puncture me so hard. So. And I know it's like I'm getting off on a tangent here. But.
No, I love it, man. I love it. Have you ever read any Viktor Frankl?
I have not. No, that's a new one to me. I'm gonna have to write that down.
He did. He's written a couple books: Man's Search for Meaning, and I think Man's Will for Meaning. Is probably a couple more than that, but those are the 2 I read. He said something that was really powerful to me. He said, "Suffering ceases to be suffering the moment it finds meaning." And our story, we suffer from our story until we find out that our story can empower others. All of a sudden, our story has meaning. And I love that you talked about everyone. This is, you're not gonna get me to believe any different. Everyone's allowed to believe what they want. Your trauma, every single person's trauma, everyone listening right now, that trauma that you went through, you have unique gifts. Once you unpack, once you unprocess, once you let go of the chains that are holding you down from that event, you have very unique gifts. The fact of the matter is, okay, yes, Kevin, like there's things that can, there's events that may top what you've been through. Okay, fair enough. But you do have thicker skin than most people. These are part of your inherent and unique gifts from the trauma. Yes. When we allow ourselves to really, really go through and process this trauma, we come out on the other side with these gifts that we get to share. We now have meaning, and we can now empower and impact other people's lives. I love everything you said up to now, Kevin.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like somebody asked the other day, Josh Pitts on a Facebook page. He's like, no, I don't know if it was Josh, somebody else. No, that was a different thing I dove into, but like, can you define happiness? I was like, I don't know if I can define happiness, but I think I know some keys to happiness. First of all, it's a choice, and how you view things. I think there's some steps. I used to think I want to write a book about it, and who knows, maybe I will. And if somebody takes this idea and writes it before me, good for you. You executed on
You're
it.
like throw my name in like the intro credits or something.
Ideas are cheap, execution is hard, right?
Boom.
But it's like success. There's people who listen to this podcast and who's going to listen to us and maybe on our circles and broader, that are going to be like, well, I'm not successful. And I'll ask you a question. Why are you not successful? Because success is self-measured. Success is 100% self-measured. That's where we fail so badly as Americans, is we put this success quotient is that I need to be Jeff Bezos, or like, David Goggins is a uberly successful dude, right? I mean, incredible story. I don't want to be anything like that man. He carries an anger that drives him every day. And you know what? If I lived his story, I might as well. He should be a statistic, but I don't want that anger. I don't want Jeff Bezos' life. Like he just had to pay out billions to an ex-wife because it couldn't make things work. I love my wife. I got a great relationship with her. So you have to look at your life and analyze and understand what success it means to you. I know guys who would jump on the back of a garbage truck every day, make maybe minimum wage plus, and can come home, eat their moon pie, watch reruns of I Love Lucy or whatever, get up and go to work the next day and are happy, because that's a successful life to them. And you know what? For 95% of the world, that would be successful. A roof overhead, 3 meals a day, that is success for 95% of the world. And we should just take some appreciation for that. That I think is number one. Is we want to judge ourselves through so many different people's eyes, and it starts with our parents. It's in our circles, and it is just so foolish, man. It is so foolish, and it also, I mean, it holds us back too. I mean,
good.
No, I think that whole stigma of in reverse, it can hold you back, is that like, I'm on this path, I have so much more than maybe my parents did. I'm not worth this. I can't get there. I can't take the next level. And it's like, no, man, you absolutely can. And I fight. That's the one I fight. That's the challenge that I have. Taking I called it accountability for your success. And people are like, oh yeah, accountability for your success. That means that you're responsible for your own success. Yes, that does mean that. But what I mean by that is successful people, in my opinion, successful people do a really nice job of taking accountability for their failures, right? We screw up, we forget to call somebody back, we made a mistake, we misscheduled a time on an appointment, we own it, like, hey, I'm sorry, I screwed up. If you don't do that, you aren't going to survive much in the corporate world, right? Like, it'll eat you up and spit you out. You're an excuse maker. The challenge that I suffer with, and I think some other people do, is saying when things go right, or when we do succeed, when things go well, I want to give credit to other people on the team. So for instance, when I ran Whiteboard CRM, we were having trouble recruiting. And one of our guys, Justin Ackland, I love him to death. Dude is awesome. He came to me, he's like, hey, Kevin, I think we should change up maybe some of the verbiage that we put in our LinkedIn and our Indeed through the recruiting. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I think we should put something like bring your weird to work. And I'm like, oh, it's a great idea, because we got a bunch of weird people here. Like, we're all different. Like, we're all kind of kooky and goofy. Like, the guys would get together. Like, it was mainly guys that worked there. It just so happened as a software company. It was not intentional. But they'd be like, hey guys, you want to get together for the game? And the initial point for me would be like, oh yeah, we're gonna watch a football game, we're gonna watch a basketball game, we're gonna watch either we're gonna watch an English Premier Soccer League game or the Dungeons and Dragons game these guys were getting together. Right?
That's great.
Right. And so bring your weird to work. And we did it. And what I had to take a step back and realize, like, that was Justin's idea. No. Yes, it was Justin's idea. But Justin was empowered, one, to tell me that we could do that and we can execute on it. And two, that meant that we created a work environment that everybody could bring their own weirdness to work. And whether I like it or not, I was the president of the organization. I was responsible for that. I created an environment like that. And it's hard for us sometimes when we're trying to get better at what we do to say, I did that, because naturally most human beings want to give credit to other people. At least what I do. I want to have the humility, but I also got to say I did that. And then here's the key step next moving forward is, okay, I did that. How did I do that? Because if I don't know how I did it, I can't repeat it.
Can't duplicate.
And if I can't repeat it, it's not worth it. It's smoke rings and they're gone, right? So that's a challenge, I think, for some people too in their journey to success. And I'm sorry I've gone off on these tangents, but I get geeked out about
Please
this.
do.
I love this stuff. So.
Dude, I was talking to someone the other day, a friend of mine, he's in the insurance industry himself, and just recently entered into that industry, and so he was a veteran, and so he's struggling along for a little bit, gaining footing, which
Yeah.
and then he achieved some success, and so he calls me up and he's like excited. He says, "I've had some success, awesome," and then immediately he wanted to deflect it a success. And
Right.
I'm like, no, bro. I'm like, no. When you were not achieving success, it was your fault.
Yes.
When you're achieving success, it's your fault.
Yes.
You are creating the show. You can duplicate it. It did not accidentally show up. The temporary defeat or the success did not accidentally show up. When we decide to be at cause and be in charge of our life, even there is exterior circumstances. There's no questions asked. Okay, there is. Even when there's things out of our control that take place, there's an accumulation of decisions that allowed us to be in that very place when that outside factor affected us. We are more in control than we ever give ourselves credit for, be it on the temporary defeat or on the success.
Right.
I love that you brought that up because so many people are afraid of success.
Yes.
We'll talk about it, but we're afraid of actually going for it. We don't know. We don't think. Maybe sometimes we think we're not worthy. And I throw that one out there because I've had that in the past. Sometimes we think we're not worthy.
Yep.
And then sometimes we don't think that we can actually manage that. So we talk about it, but we don't think we're actually capable of doing it. It's just like a talk. You are capable of doing it. I also go ahead, Kevin.
No. I want to hear yours, and I'll add on to it. So.
Okay. Well, you know what? If it's on that, go ahead. I'm going to talk about happy in a second. I like when you said happy. Go ahead, and then I'll bring us back to the happy piece.
Well, the challenge in our success, right, is our circles, like the influences, the people that we allow to have influence. Once again, you choose whether or not you're going to allow people to have influence on you. Like when my daughter goes to school, I talk to her. I'm like, who can teach you something? And we've got to define now. No one. I can allow myself to learn. Nobody can teach you anything. You can
head at home,
right? And but you can't change the people around you. But you can change.
But you can change the people around you. I love that.
That was like my quote for 2021, because there are so many people who have gone through hard scrabble, hard times growing up, probably like you, probably like me, like AJ, in our circles, who told us you ain't never gonna be shit. Like, okay, fine. Eventually, I need to eliminate that voice from my life. Doesn't even mean to eliminate you, but you just don't have a voice in my life. You don't have a saying in where I'm going and what I'm going to do. And so that is really critical, because when you're around people who uplift you and think more of you, you will uplift yourself. And those first relationships, the most important ones once you are an adult, is your spouse. And there is no person on God's green earth who believes in me more than Carol Curtis Ducey, my wife.
Wow.
There's no person who knows that I can be better, that I can do more than that woman. And without her, I am not here. I am nowhere on that path, because she sees me for all of my potential. Now that's a downfall too sometimes, because I don't put the dishes away right, or I don't do something. I'm not as like she's like, you're so thoughtful with other human beings. Sometimes you're not with me, and I'm like, oh crap,
Oh my gosh.
But that's where it starts. Right?
You're in good company with that one. I was thinking, my wife didn't even say it to me the other day, and I thought about the other day, like, we are so in our house. That you made me think of two things. One, in our, like, we're so kind and polite and considerate and this and that, and then we get home and we're like, think that, like, well, I worked all day, but everyone in the house worked all day. The kids went to school all day. The wife worked, and we like throw it out the window. Like, we forget that, like, we're supposed to still be caring for each other. I mean, not me. I've never done
that. How about this one? Like, I go to work all day, and for the most part, I mean, I've got one boss here at my office, right? Like, and I've got peers, but I'm mostly telling people what to do all day. When I ran Whiteboard, I was telling people what to do all day long. Like, people don't really tell you what to do when you're the president of an organization.
That's right.
So I get home and I'm just exhausted, and I just want to be told what to do. Well, my wife's in the same shoes. Like, she runs her own company, and so we just look at each other like,
what's for dinner? I don't know. What's for dinner?
We're both exhausted for telling people what to do. It's just like, somebody please just tell me what to do and I will go do it. But it's an interesting dynamic. But the same thing we talk about. Once you realize what that is, then you can adjust and you
How
can.
about how about this? So not only so there's a factor we talked about how we treat other people, and then in the house sometimes we can get I can get complacent there for
Oh yeah,
sure.
yes,
But
absolutely.
what about one step further? If you could actually, so all everyone, by the way, if you thought it was very, very unique about you, all of us, we have about 90,000 thoughts per day, and like
Yep, yep.
85% of them, at least, if you're doing good, like 80% of them are horrible. I
Right. Yeah,
say
it's
horrible,
not. It's
negative,
90%.
negative.
It's 90% or negative. Yeah.
Okay. And so if your thoughts were like recorded and you listen back to them, you'd be like, what is that neurotic sound coming out of that machine? And we think about like how like not only like I would never communicate with another person that way, nor would I allow a person to communicate with me that way, but all day I'm playing this tape in my head.
I say this about like my best friends and people I love in my life, and probably you too, Greg. Right? If your internal dialogue became a human being and started talking to you, I would kick its ass. Like I would just be like, you're
That's
not
right.
going to talk to my friend that way. I'm going to beat your ass.
That's right.
And we do that to ourselves all the time. It's just ridiculous.
You know, there's one thing I want to share with that too, because we all know like, okay, think positive, right? But when we get, because I've been there, we start getting that spiral, right?
Mhm.
And so one thing that I share with people is you got to know what is a favorable outcome for you. I mean, in any
Oh yeah.
like in individual situations, but like in life, like in 5 years, what's favorable for Greg? And the reason being, like, daydream with it, like build it out. Like, what is it like? It materialistic, spiritually, monetary, family. What is you pick it? It's yours. You favorite it. What happens the more you build this out, the more you can see it, the more you can hear the sounds that are going on, the more that you can feel what it feels like to be there. When you have those negative thoughts, and you even if you even have like a glimpse of this, you get sucked into this positive, favorable place, and it allows you to start controlling those thoughts that come through.
And it's a muscle, right?
Bingo.
It's a muscle like anything else. You have to exercise it because the first time you do it, you're probably going to fail. I'm not that good at it. I mean, I mean, I see the stuff that you do, and I know that you're better at that than I am, and so you're helping me when I think about that. Because the aspect of that, the only way you can do that is you have to be still, and you have to be quiet. And good Lord Almighty, how hard is it to be still and quiet?
With these computers in our pocket.
Oh, it's stupid things. I mean, I wish we could have an argument where we didn't look it up on Google anymore. You know, I mean, where
Oh,
we
I
just,
fact check it on
no, you're
Facebook.
wrong.
No.
No, and we shake hands and we move on, and nobody can prove each other right because we're not running to the public library to look up the Encyclopedia Britannica to your grandma's house, right?
That's
Um,
great.
but no, it's to do that, you have to challenge yourself to be still because you have to you have to take the time to think about that. And
That's right.
we are very bad as a society at doing that, right? I mean, kids are so much more creative because they daydream and they create games and they're able to do those things. And it's a challenge, man. It's really hard. I saw this one thing I thought was really cool the other day. I was watching, my kid loves smart shows. It was talking about the challenge of creativity between adults and kids. It's called like brain something or other. And that when you're struggling for creativity, like sit back and rotate your eyes back and forth, right and left. And what it's doing is connecting the synapses or whatever. My wife's a physiologist. She's going to yell at me because I didn't say it right. Between the right and the left brain. And that gets weaker over time as adults because we're not challenging the creative side or the logic side,
Yeah.
depending on where we sit mostly in our lives. We sit on one side only. But
Yep.
doing that back and forth will actually kind of bond them together and actually add some creativity to your thought. I thought it was really cool. I just want to share that. I like sharing stuff like that. So
That's powerful. I love it too. Anytime you can create movement with anything. I
yes.
mean, if you're having a conversation, like even like my kids, it could be with my wife, but with my kids, and like, let's say the conversation, like I'm trying to transfer a thought or an idea or a belief to them. So I can set them up for success. If we're not like, if we're kind of if we're hitting the wall over and over, like we'll get up and walk, like I'll take my son and we'll walk around the house and come right back in the house.
Yep.
I'm like,
Yep.
hey,
Got
hey,
to.
come, yep. Just change it up. I love to the right, left and right brain. Most of us know what this is. If not, kind of check it out. We have two different like, and the way I look at it is art and science. Or are you talking
Right. Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
And everything. I'm gonna suggest everything. Maybe not. Maybe there's one outlier. Most things are a beautiful match or a balance between art and science. The catch is it's not a perfect balance. Some things are here. Some things are here. Some things are here. Some things are here. Wherever it's at, we tend to, like you said, we tend to favor art or science. and we get
Mhm.
really good at it, and then we want to argue why this is the right thing. You're not
Yes.
wrong, but there's a matter of balance in the two.
Mhm.
We have to be able to emotionally connect with our people, and logically, some shit has to be done. And
Right.
then and where is that balance in between the two? Yeah,
Yeah, it's the EQ, IQ there and work and yeah, all that's combined there. And it's just like anything else. We want to stay in areas that are comfortable to us.
that's right.
And when you don't exercise, that's a muscle just like we talked about. When you don't exercise that other side, it becomes very difficult to use. So gotta
That's
be
right.
intentional about it, right?
That's right. I want to dive back in with happiness. That was when you
Okay.
talked about that. I literally I wrote down. I was like happy, and I wrote happy and the word choice.
Mhm.
Man, let's see. So most of us probably know if you're hearing this for the first time, happiness is not even you choose. Happiness doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. That's what I'm going to suggest. Okay, okay.
Right.
That's what I'm going to suggest to everyone. It does not exist. You choose what it is and you bring it into existence. It never existed prior. You have to choose what it is. Some people say, I heard someone say to me, they said, I don't know how to be happy. I said, well, you're not exercising the power of choice. You're not exercising the God given gift of free will.
Yes.
What would you like to be doing right now? What would make you happy? I don't know. Well, that's fine. And literally, if someone answered that, if you say, what would make you happy? You say, I don't know. That's fine. But if you were to know, what would that thing be? Something has to be capable of making you happy. And so just identifying that if you're looking for happiness, you can never find it. You choose what it is, and then you can always have it. Furthermore, when you talked about success,
Okay.
we tend to, as a species, we tend to put success as something that as a place that we'll get to.
The destination.
And so as long as it's a place that we're going to get to, that place will always move as we move. I mean, we
Right.
might get a little bit
Yes.
closer,
Yes.
even if we achieve it. And so we have to realize success is in the process or in the decisions that we make every single day.
Right.
Success is not in the attainment of, and it doesn't just have to be. So a lot of people look at it financially or materialistically, but some people are chasing spiritual success.
Yeah.
There's the people that are just have every certification on their wall. You're like, is that a wallpaper or all certifications? They're like spiritually searching, and it's not a destination. It's realizing where you're at in the journey you're on right now. What would give us your words on that, Kevin?
All right. So first of all, if it is a destination, you're going to be doomed for failure. One,
Boom.
like you said, it's either going to move the whole way, or two, there's an end date on that, and then you get there, and it's now what? I think about professional athletes a lot, right? So you get these professional athletes; they spend their entire life dedicated to their craft, and depending on what sport it is, it could be over at 30, 35 years old. Now what? Now you are a football player. That is who you've constructed your mind to be, a
Construct it.
football player, and now
Created
you're
an
no longer a
identity.
football player. What do you do now? And you
Yeah.
see so many of those guys really struggle with that.
Yeah.
Success is a journey. It is absolutely not a destination, because you've just got to be a little bit better today in where you want to go, or what you want to do, or what you want to accomplish. Like I talked about the garbage guy. If he wants to watch 2 more episodes of The Price is Right tonight, and he gets that, and he's able to do that because of his job, or he did something a little bit more efficiently, that's success, man. That's success. An
That's
extra
right.
hour with your kids a week is, if that's what success is, then you're accomplishing something, and you can move on to it. I think that I think we set up either unrealistic goals, or um, don't set any at all either, right? So how many people are you living like Jason Isbell has a lyric. I love him. He's a country music guy and kind of underground, but are you living the life you chose, or are you letting it choose you, right?
That's right. That's right.
What do you and there's a word choice that keeps coming up over and over and over again, and that you have to set some kind of definitive goals for yourself to understand what success truly does mean to you. And it comes back to you talking about envisioning what you want to do with your life and what it looks like to you. And so, for instance, for me, um, what I look at, and I'm not going to set definitive numbers on this, because I do believe there's certain things that are outside of my power, or certain things I might want to do here. But I really look at, when my kids are in college and grown, what do I want my life to look like there? Like, I want to be able to go sit on my porch, have a cup of coffee with my wife, and then go to fly to whatever event they're doing, or be able to drive to whatever event they're doing, and be able to be there in their lives and be there for their grandkids, and kind of just live that part of my life the way I see fit. If I want to go help somebody from a consulting aspect with sales or with whatever it may be, that's kind of the idea. And so then what do we need to do today to get there? Like what kind of small sacrifices do we need to make today to make that a reality? That's a really big picture. But I mean, you think about like what are we doing with those last 10 to 15, 20 years of our life? Because it can be some of the best times of your life. You just have to kind of manage it to get there. I know I'm getting more meta here, but
no, I love it, man. I love it. Good.
I was very lucky too. So people think this is bullshit when I tell them. I literally remember I was maybe like 12, 13, 14 years old. People ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, a good husband and a good dad. I mean, like literally, that was my success. That was what success was to me back then. Wow. I hope I'm that. I'm working on that. Wow. And that one should be a journey, right? Because if all of a sudden I became a good dad and I could just quit, like, no, I'm done, kids. Go do whatever you want to do.
Did
like,
it?
That's not a good dad. Fail. So I think there's anything that's the idea, is that if success is something that you can just attain and you're done, it's a fallacy you're setting yourself up for.
Well, I liked how you talked about it with a theme of choice, and 100%. At any given time, if there's anything in my life that I do not like, I'll simply decide what I want to replace it and what is the plan to get there. And by the way, that's success for me.
Yes.
I'm successing every day. I'm not gaining the material. I'm not crossing the finish line for whatever this plan is every day. Actually, I am, because I set plans in place last week and 6 months ago and a year ago. But they don't just show up instantly. Go ahead.
And if you don't believe that, go talk to somebody who's less fortunate than yourself, that has a good attitude on things. I've heard so many parents that have children with disabilities that their children are the light of that. Those children are giving them the light of their life, because here they are dealing with cerebral palsy or Down syndrome. And these kids have the greatest attitude of any kid you've ever been around. And that's typical. Most disabled kids I've ever been around are just joys to be around. And yet they've got all the circumstances in life are going against them. They are the epitome of life is 95% of how you react and 5% of what happens to you.
That's right.
And they got dealt the hammer, and they're upbeat and positive. I mean, there's a reason why we have a higher suicide rate than third world countries. I mean, we have people who are starving to death around the world that aren't killing themselves, but we have affluent people all over this country that are killing themselves because we have this misguided idea of what happiness is.
Yeah.
Dennis Leary said, I'm a little slightly vulgar here. Dennis Leary said, happiness comes in small bits, man. It's an orgasm, a chocolate chip cookie, and a cigarette, dude. It's nothing more.
That's right.
You just got to take it's true. The only way you can enjoy those is if you live in the moment, right? If you're in the moment, if you're not constantly thinking about yesterday or tomorrow, that's the only way that you can enjoy that chocolate chip cookie. I've done it so many times in my life, ate a cookie and it's done. I don't even remember tasting the damn thing. It was so stupid. Like, why'd I eat it?
I love what you talk about, being in the moment. I say sometimes. I did this yesterday. I told my wife about it, and she was like, oh, that's awesome. When I start getting, so there's a lot going on in life, right? So what? Everyone. And so there's like that threshold somewhere. Everyone's threshold's a little bit, everyone's thermometer's a little bit different, where you're like, I'm fine. Yeah, there's a lot going on. Nah. Holy crap, right? And when I get there, when I realize it, and I'm very attuned to it, so I realize it. And so I was having conversations with my wife, and like literally in the last week of my life, I was like, hey babe, we're getting there. I'm not stressed right now. And then like, hey, a little bit. And then like, hey, I'm stressed. Like I need help. I'm a little bit underwater. And when I get there, I literally just tune in the now. And what I mean is, I literally I'm going to speak for myself. When I get stressed, I use this metaphor that we have spinning plates. So imagine spinning plates on a stick.
Oh yeah.
And we start collecting these spinning plates, and we're like, man, there's too much. And I got so much going on. I don't know what to do. And then I go on the now, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck these spinning plates. I'm going to pick the 3 that are important to me, and the rest of these get the hell out of the way.
Crash and fall. Who cares?
Get the hell out of here. Why do I want to live like this? This is my choice. I collected these plates. I'll get rid of these plates.
Yeah, I'm dealing with it, dude. It's been 100 degrees every day in Oklahoma for like a month. It hasn't rained in forever. My brain starts going like, how is the electricity going to handle this? What are we doing for water? Inflation's now over 9%. Mortgage rates are shooting through. What can I do about that? Not a damn.
And you're over there collecting all these stressors. You're collecting them.
I can't do it.
Like there's a prize for it.
Like, and if I truly go back to what I envision success is, if all that crumbles, I'm still a dad and a husband.
Boom.
I'm still a child of Christ, man. Like
Right now.
that's the
That's right.
secondary. Everything. Oh, well, dude, if I got to go live in the woods, man, thank God Uncle Sam teach me. I can do that. I can
That's
survive.
right.
I can find a way. Like we can figure out a way to eat.
The fact of the matter is you'll bond with your family more than you ever have already up to now.
So yeah, exactly. You got to take that garbage nonsense and you can find whatever you want to worry about. You can find whatever you choose to worry about.
When we're people don't like hearing, I get it, but like I'm speaking for me. When we're stressed out, we have chosen to be in that state.
Yep.
You're holding on to the things that are stressing you out. Get rid of them.
And I think there's a level that if you've been diagnosed with something, if you have a chemical imbalance, by all means, we're not selling anybody short there, but for most people, it truly is a choice of how you handle and deal with that, right? It is you gotta take a look at the now and measure what's important and get the other crap out of the way. Right?
And even for those that I'll just say this. I love everyone. I'm going to say this. What was the book? Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. If you have not read that book, read that book. The title is clickbait. That's not what the book's about. I suggest that this is the single best manual written on how to interact with other humans. Absolutely amazing book. He literally talks about in that book, and for those of you, my goal is not to offend anyone, and I'm going to say this. He literally talks about in that book, most people go to a doctor because they need an audience.
That's true.
There's true chemical imbalances. Yes, I'm not a doctor. Most of us are looking for a diagnosis so that we can bear hug the shit out of it and go tell everyone that we're allowed to do this behavior because we received the diagnosis. We have
self-fulfilling prophecies.
Self-fulfilling prophecies.
Putting on the ankle weights before we run the race.
That's it, man. We're powerful. We're capable of so much. And so I could look at the people and say like, well, I have this going on. That's why I'm stressed. Okay, how the fuck is this quadriplegic? Dude, I actually do. I'm going to have a quadriplegic on here. Literally, when I get off with you, I'll be recording another episode.
That's awesome.
Friend of mine, he's a Marine. And like, how's that guy fucking happy as shit? Like, how's that guy happy? And I'm I get a little excited.
He takes joys in the now. He takes joys in taking a breath.
That's right.
He appreciates breathing. Like you appreciate the small shit, man. That's what you do. That's right. It's 100 degrees outside. It's air conditioning in here. I'm thankful. Thank you. Appreciate it. Like if you find some joy in some small shit, and life gets a whole lot better for you. Like
I want to hit one last point home. I want to get your feedback on it for everyone that's out there, depending on where you're at on your journey. If you don't have goals, so I'm just going to ask you real quick, what's your goals? And you're not, we don't even see you. We don't see you. We don't hear you. If you weren't able to just say, oh, this, and this, you don't currently have goals. So what? And furthermore, let me say that a little bit different. You didn't have goals up till now.
Right.
But right now you can have goals. Okay. So those that are early on in setting goals, we tend to, I've seen a pattern of, we set the goal numerically. I want to make X amount of money. Generally speaking, that's a fine goal. Tear it up. Pick your financial thermometer. My question is that I want to provoke for you, that I want to give to you, and then get your feedback, Kevin. What I want to provoke is just money is trash. It's paper. Okay. What would you trade the money for? That's your why. That's your goal. If you had $10 million next year, what would you do with it? Begin your visualization exercise. What are your thoughts on that, Kevin?
I love that. It is
awesome.
You talk about the money thing, right? I remember in high school thinking, man, I want to make $40,000 a year. I got there. Like it wouldn't do much for. That's unfortunate, and I'm not being flippant with anybody who makes $40,000 a year.
That's right.
That's a tough living to make in 2022, man. Like there's not a lot of flexibility you have from a financial freedom standpoint at 40,000. So yeah, putting those numbers on it's silly. It also confines you a little bit. Like I want to make enough. I want to make enough money to do what I want to do when I want to do it. I want freedom. That's what I want. I want freedom to be able to go help people when I want to go when they need it. I want freedom to be able to be there for my kids when they need it. I want freedom to be there for my wife when she needs it. I want freedom to be with my father when he needs me as he's getting older in life. That's what I want.
I love it. And whatever it takes to get there, whatever that is. I tell people, I look at the way I view money is like if there was a stream in front of me, I'm looking to if that stream was only 6 inches across, only so much water could flow at a time. I'm looking to increase that, but I'm not building a pond in the backyard. When the money
Right,
comes in, the money goes back out. But if the
right.
stream is big enough at any given time, I'm able to, oh, you need a bucket of water? Here's a bucket of water for you. Here's a bucket of water for you. The goal is just to increase that stream. I love that. So Kevin, what's your feedback for those that are listening, for those that have experienced or related to your story. Where can people connect with you at?
Man, I utilize Facebook a lot. I utilize it more on a professional standpoint, that I connect with the folks in there. And I think there's a reason for that is that when my circle's really big in Facebook, but when I was following a lot of people that I have relationships with, friends and things of that nature, and it would come into the woe is me or the political BS, I just didn't need that in my life. So I just shut that off. But I do use it on a professional standpoint. So if people want to connect with me, it's Kevin. I think it's Kevin Ducey .7 or something like that. They can also email me, find me on LinkedIn. My email is kevin.ducey@commainsurance.com. Love to talk to anybody. I love helping people. So it's here's one for you. Harvard Business Review podcast I listened to a while back, and it talked about how people truly find joy in helping other people in life. People don't ask other people for help because they're worrying that they'll put them out. So what happens is there's people waiting around to help other people that don't get to do it because you're worried about putting them out. So you're both miserable. And
Wow, that's
it just is
powerful.
this confluence of circles. Like if you just people love helping other people. If you need help, you need realistic help, ask somebody. They'll help you out. And if people aren't asking you for help, go pry some from them, because that's number two in the happiness thing chart, or number three in my happiness chart is like, go do something for other people. Go be a servant for others, man, because that brings joy to my life. I know that. So
That's huge, and it gives meaning. So
yeah.
I know you just left that, but I'm gonna ask you for one last piece, parting words. So if someone was standing in front of you, they're 1, 2, 3 chapters behind you, and they don't believe that a brighter future is possible, what is your parting words for that person?
All right. You've already been through the hardest thing that you've ever gone through in your life, and you made it out, and you're here. You're breathing. You're upright. I mean, your paraplegic friend isn't. He's in a wheelchair, but you're here. What are you going to do with it? Time is finite. You can wallow, or you can try to move forward. And the only thing truly holding us back is ourselves. And to come up with something in our life that gives us meaning, that gives us purpose, and gives us something to do, and strive to do that. That's the biggest thing. You've already been through the hardest thing you've ever been through in your life. When you stop to think about that, like, today should be easy. And life unto itself is not easy. But I come back to this. It's hard to do, but bet on yourself, believe in yourself, do the right things incrementally. I believe there's so much we can learn from Alcoholics Anonymous as well, right?
Yes,
If you ever talk to somebody who's been in the program, they don't have to be sober for the rest of their life. Be sober today.
just today.
You don't have to eat well for the rest of your life if you're trying to lose weight. You got to eat better the next meal, not today, the next freaking meal. That's the one you got to eat healthy. You don't have to be a better employee forever. You have to be a better one today. Like those, when you start taking the small increments, they start stacking, man. It's the compound effect, Darren Hardy book. That's kind of where, I mean, obviously I would love to get way more into somebody in that. It's trying to give these little snippets, and then just the events that happen to you is about how you choose to react to them. When the guy cuts you off when you're on your way to work, he or she didn't mean to. You getting angry about it, you empower them to have an impact on your life. Why are you doing that? Why? So if you can take those things that happen to you in life and choose to look at it from a different perspective, and a perspective that promotes your success, that's how you'll grow as a human being, as a leader, as an employee, as a husband, as a wife, as a father, as a mother, and everything. And that's when you come to that realization, that's going to drive you in your life into places that you want to go.
Kevin, I appreciate it. That's huge. And I know everything you shared today is going to change someone's life
It's going to
and
change mine
continue.
today.
Good, good. I have takeaways, and I know what you shared is going to change someone's life, and I know it's going to continue to change lives as this goes on to live forever into cloud space. For those, if you're listening into this, check us out on YouTube. It's Success After Trauma, so you can watch the video. Do me a favor and subscribe to the channel if you like what you're seeing, so you can get notified for new episodes, and you can download us from your favorite streaming platform. I appreciate you being on here. If you have a story to share, please reach out to me at greg@gregpihs.com. And if you feel connected to Kevin, or if you have questions for him, or you want to take a deeper dive, remember it's Kevin Ducey. His name's right at the bottom of the screen. You can look him up on Facebook, or kevin.ducey@commainsurance.com. Be great. It's already in you.